Every year in the NHL, we have some teams that were playoff teams a year ago that find themselves on the outside looking in. And the opposite, some teams that couldn't quite get over that hump last year finally get into the 16-team dance this year. And so today, we're going to try to predict who they are. We got 5 coming out and 5 going in. Let's start with the teams that are coming out, because we need space for these new teams entering our dance. And admittedly, when you look at the name power of the out and then the name power of the in, I don't know if it's exactly what the NHL would want, but I do think that there is still some intrigue here. So let's start first with the out. And at number 5, I don't know, like, they are kind of 5 because I just needed 5. Quite frankly, because I found 5 on the in, and, lists are better when they're top 5, right? So I have Vancouver. I do think that there is a world where the goaltending situation just doesn't correct itself, right? Like, Thatcher Demko is dealing with an injury that they don't, you see the quotes out of camp, and it doesn't totally feel like they have a grasp on it, and that feels concerning to me. You combine that with, like, a lot went well for them last year. Like, I just can't believe that JT Miller is going to be that good again. And like Elias Pettersson was on another level for a while. And like they got some very good play from their depth forwards as well. And it felt like last year was everything is going right for Vancouver year. And so I do think that there is a opportunity for them to maybe step back a little bit. Now, stepping back a little bit for a team that finished first in their division and was within a stone's throw of the President's Trophy again, like that is a large falling off. And so this is why they're at number 5. I do think it would take a bit of catastrophe for them to fall off, or one team to be so much better than we thought they were going to be and moving into that spot. But I do think that they are a team that has the potential to fall out. At 4, it's the Los Angeles Kings. They once again got just curb stomped by the Edmonton Oilers, and they go out and acquire Pierre-Luc. No, they didn't. They got rid of Pierre-Luc Dubois. So that helps. They maybe kind of figured out the goaltending situation, so that maybe also helps. But there still feels like there's something lacking. And also, it does kind of feel like Drew Doughty is fading a little bit, and they don't really have the blue line to help make up for that. And so I just feel like there is maybe a little bit of a falling off, as like what we kind of thought there was a lot of these young pieces and you got excited about it, and they traded a few of them away for PLD, and I think that set the franchise back a little bit. Now they still made the playoffs, but now you look at kind of those younger depth pieces that are supposed to be pushing up, they're not in the way that I think they need to. Byfield looks like he could have another really good year after a great year last year, but I just don't know if there is enough there to make up for some of the other guys who are starting to fall off a little bit. And I still have some concerns about the goaltending situation. At 3, the Winnipeg Jets. Last season, everything kind of clicked for them until the playoffs. But like they were a team that legitimately I thought could win the Stanley Cup. But that was, again, with Connor Hellebuck playing like the best goalie in the world for some really long stretches and getting some very strong performances out of a few of your guys. Now this year, you have a controversy around Ehlers. There was the whole thing with the prospect who didn't want to be there. And I think that this is actually quite a good team and just kind of needed to pick some ones to fill into this spot. But when you're looking at the teams out west who have the chance to maybe fall off a little bit, there are just, quite frankly, a lot of very good teams. And I don't think Dallas falls out to the point where they're out of the playoffs. I don't think Colorado falls out to the point where they're out of the playoffs. And like Nashville got quite a bit better this year. So where else are you going to fall? And that could be a little bit of it too, is that there are just some other teams who are pushing up and making life a little bit more difficult on Winnipeg. The next 2 are out east, the New York Islanders. And I know, I perpetually underrate the New York Islanders. I still, for the 5th year in a row, just don't think they're good enough to make the playoffs. I like a couple of the pieces that they have, but I just don't think that they are about that life and are a team that I see really making a push into the playoffs this year. I think because there are a couple of other improving teams out east, that they kind of get knocked off here. And I think there's been a couple of times where it's felt they kind of got in a bit by default because some of these younger teams just couldn't quite get over that hump. And at number 1, it's Washington. They were the ones who traded for Pierre-Luc Dubois. I have concerns about that. They go out and acquire Andrew Mangiapane. If you guys listened to any of my Flame stuff last year, you know I was not super high on the kid. And I worry that they are going to expect the 35 goal scorer that was there a couple of years ago, who's not anymore. I worry about that. and they had a goalie get hot for the first time in his career, and it got them to the playoffs. I don't know if I have confidence that happens again. And so I think Washington is the team that I do think falls out here when we get into it this season. And then the teams now that get into the playoffs. Sorry, I just got a thing on my OBS that says welcome to the chat. So hopefully I didn't miss a whole lot here. But looks like everything is going fine now. Anyway, the teams that are going into the playoffs now. At 5, it's Utah. They go out and acquire Sergachev. This was a team I thought that could make a run into the playoffs last year. And then you had the whole where are they going to live situation, and where, like, there was just so much negativity around the arena, around being in Arizona, about potentially moving, and all of that I think it just kind of became too much of a distraction for them to overcome. I think now that they are in a new place, reinvigorated, all of that, I think that this is a team that makes the bump into the playoffs this year. At 4, it is the Minnesota Wild. I think injuries really hindered this team last year. They are now just about out of the purgatory for toxic. Yes, I did. Yes. Doing this part today, saying, oh yeah, Utah's going to make it into the playoffs after they did the own goal last night in the preseason. Yeah, it's not great. It doesn't help me all that much. And so, yeah, that's, you know, it's mildly concerning. It's a problem. But I do think that there is a team there that can really make a push. For Minnesota now, this is a team that was hampered by injuries a lot last year. And now they are coming in, and I think that, like, Kaprizov is still one of the best players in the league, man. And Eriksson Ek, I think, doesn't get enough credit. They have this cap situation that's been hanging over them for a while that is coming towards an end anyway. And so I think that there is some reason for optimism out in Minnesota. At 3, it's Seattle. I didn't love what they did this offseason in terms of long-term contracts, but Montour and Stevenson make this a better hockey team than they were last year. And so I think with another year of development for some of the young guys, and now adding a couple of very good playoff-proven pieces, that this is a Seattle team that can push for the playoffs. At 2, it's Montreal. This is assuming that there is some growth in Patrick Laine, and he just kind of gets back into being the guy that he was a few years ago, and the guy we all thought he could be. But I think, like, my breakout player of the year this year is Cole Caulfield. Slafkovsky was on that list as well. They have all these guys who I think are these young players who can take this step into being like that type of a caliber of player, and that will really help them going forward. And I think that this is a team now that takes that step, that is done rebuilding. They have a couple of pieces on the blue line that you don't mind. And I have said before, like, there's some advancement that needs to be done tactically and from quite a few players to get them there. But I do think that they are ready to take that next step into the postseason. And at 1, it's cheating a little bit, but it's New Jersey. I thought they could have been legitimately a Stanley Cup contender last year if they would have acquired Tanev and Markstrom from the Flames. They got neither and missed the playoffs. But now they made a big move in the offseason to get a defenseman. They made a big move in the offseason to get the goalie Markstrom. This is a team that feels complete. And yet Hughes' injury sucks, but this is a team that feels complete right now and feels like they can make a real run, not just at a playoff spot, but a very high seed in the Eastern Conference, and then do some damage in the postseason.